Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Workday Morning Show. I am your host, Tony Gilfillan, and we are going to jump into the usual morning news from what I'm finding interesting in the world today. Let me switch to my live scene here. We'll get to that in a second. All right, first, I found this article about ChatGPT's new 5.2 thinking model. It claims to be quite a bit faster, claiming to be 11 times faster than its previous model, compared to its 5.1 model. But I need to test more of this. You know, a lot of these articles kind of glaze over some of the actual facts of what these models can and can't do. But I am interested to see what they are doing here, since they've been in that kind of code red mode since Gemini's been taking over, as far as the efficiency of its models have been pretty great since Gemini 3. In that news, Gemini is actually powering Google Translate now. So if you're traveling and use Google Translate, you should see a noticeably increase in the usefulness. It looks like it's enabling kind of that real-time audio translation um, between the detected language. So I need to actually play with that a little bit as well. I think that's pretty interesting. I think it's a good use case for AI, honestly. Um, Saw some complaints this morning about the Oracle stock continuing to dip from its all-time highs this September. Again, I think this is a little bit of hype with all the crazy AI stocks going down as of recent. It's the winter months; stocks tend to do that. I wouldn't panic sell or anything. Even if you look at the back of in the year, Oracle's still up 10% on the year. So even with the decline from the crazy jump it had in September, not a crazy dip there. So again, stock news tends to be sensational. In the news of entertainment, I don't know if you guys have kids, but my kids love the original Super Mario movie. Super Mario Galaxy movie just dropped a new trailer. They are super excited for that one, and honestly, so am I. All right. And with that, let's jump over to where I left off yesterday. So we were running into an issue where the ID in our orchestrate was coming through, but it was coming through with double quotes on the API. So it was having a basically double quotes around the reference ID, blowing up the URL. It's essentially a malformed URL with the double quotes in that at the end of the URL. So what I needed to do was use this string at JSON path, and I was using JSON data at JSON path. So effectively, when you're doing JSON data at JSON path, it's literally pulling back the data that is within that key. So the key of ID is this entire string, including the double quotes, thinking it's actual JSON data, because that can contain other objects or different types of data, regardless of string or not. But string at JSON path actually parses it down into just the string. So that's exactly what I needed to do, and I kind of went down a little rabbit hole because I enjoyed the the satisfaction of it functioning. And I built it out a little bit further. So we'll kind of walk back from what I built and what I created kind of earlier this morning. So when we were doing that push back to our API, as I mentioned, the email content ID, this is where we were having that problem. Let me jump back to the create values here, and this is where that problem is solved. So this is that string at JSON path instead of the JSON data at JSON path. So it's actually returning the string I need versus just the JSON data for that particular element. So pretty quick fix, but pretty frustrating to be getting that back instead of the string. That was that fix. And then once I got my data back into my orchestration and it was properly updating my email content, I jumped over to my application and I started using the lovely Copilot to generate some different pages for me. So this was actually able to generate both my view and my update page for updating my email content. So I didn't actually have to build both of these PMD pages or the graph queries associated to them. So that was pretty handy, just be able to dump in a short little prompt, and then it was able to generate again both my view page. So my view page has a simple grid that has all of my customer data, including the email content coming back from my agent, and then my update page. I do need to do a link here, so I have no way of going from my view page to my update page yet, but I do have both of them. So essentially I just need to create a flow from my view page to my update page still to be able to get to this update page and be able to update my information within my business object. But I can see that my information is coming back from my agent. I can edit it in a rich text field, and my all that formatting is actually happening from the rich text side of things. So if I were to do different bolding and stuff, this is able to be rich text and saved in my business object. I'm gonna go ahead and just bold the top there, and I can do a quick get just to see that it does in fact live within my business object as rich text. So as you see there, it bolded that events line that I bolded within my editor. So I do verify that my rich text field is in fact rich text. So that's pretty nice. But I did notice that my output from my agent is not exactly oh my gosh, I didn't realize my screen isn't updating. One sec, guys. You guys were just seeing the JSON. Yeah, sorry. So you guys were just seeing this. My screen updater was not updating properly. So what happened here? Let me take one step back. So effectively, the create values on that JSON at JSON path for the ID was coming through as double quotes around my string because it was coming back as JSON data and not string. I apologize for that. This streaming studio can get a little funky sometimes. So essentially this was the fix. This string at JSON path was what I needed to get the actual string data versus the string literal with the double quotes around it. Because if you put double quotes around it within a URL, it's not a well-formed URL, and that's what was blowing up yesterday at the end of our stream. So this is our fix. This is now able to get our proper ID, and we're able to use that in our URL here. So that create email content.id from our create values is now not having the double quotes around it. So this is a well-formed URL, and it is able to push in our patch with that email content back to our business object. And again, back to the app itself, I did use Copilot. Looks like my prompts kind of disappeared here, unfortunately. So this is the edit page. I did earlier create a view page with this, but this is essentially what it created for me. Created the page, created the graph queries, and some mock data for me, so I don't have to connect to a tenant. I can actually see this page without connecting to a tenant, and then the AMD for those endpoints. So I do have an update page. I do have a view page. Again, need to connect them together to be able to go from my view page to my update page, because my view page is kind of the view all. I can see all my customers at once and the email content within them. But it's kind of funny over here on the right. I guess I could technically make this an edit page, but that would be kind of an unpleasant experience editing in this small grid section over on the far right. So that's why we have update page for each individual customer. And this one is, again, it's not super visually appealing because it's kind of in that markdown format coming back from Claude. So I do want to update that a little bit to be able to return me a actual rich text email that I don't really have to edit too much, because in its current state, I'd kind of have to edit quite a bit of stuff to get this to return something that will look good in an email. So let's go ahead and jump back to my agent, and we're going to edit that prompt just a little bit. So I did update this prompt already. I haven't run it yet. I'm actually kind of curious what it's going to return for me. So we're still doing the find events on special occasions based on the location that we put into the AI prompt, but the output is a little bit more in detail. And I actually use Claude to help me create a more useful prompt here. So I want it to format in those HTML tags so that it's formatting in a way that the rich text editor is able to see it, because when it's in Markdown, that is not actual rich text. That's going to come through as those, the stars for bolding and the parentheses signs for the different headers and whatnot. So I don't want that. I want the actual HTML tags to come through for our HTML to be able to create that rich text look in my email. So I want it to, again, use those HTML tags. For each event, I'd like it to find an image and then structure it, date, time, and then giving it an example output here on what exactly that output should look like. So I'm going to go ahead and just save that, save my agent. I wonder if we just run it through our little chat here. Well, that's new. Submit the form. Come back into agent. Why it's giving me this. Huh, that's new. Usually has a chat window here. Anyway, we don't need to do that. We already have our orchestration set up for it. So let's go ahead and just run our orchestrate. That should have hit my agent with that new prompt. Let's see what came through. Logs will take a second, but we can also just use our send Workday API request from the start of our orchestrate and our fancy debug step, be able to grab that data right away. Did not seem to update my email content. Maybe it's just not quite through yet. That's still in that old markdown format. See where at with logs. Oh, error. So my guess is whatever it is outputting, the actual API doesn't like some sort of content in there. Yeah, so it's the email content field, which, the only thing we're really caring about when it comes back from that Flowise. We need to see what is actually coming into. Here we're logging. This looks like what I want. So it is coming back in that HTML format pretty significantly long. Dang, Claude. I'm going to grab this whole thing and just see if I can paste it into my editor. I just want to see if this is able to be saved in rich text. I can't even find the end of this. There we are. Okay, so if I go back to my update page, let's see if we can just update this ourselves, and then we'll get to the API bit of it. Oh, it came through as just email content. So that it must have just bombed out on pushing in the, oh, this is not nothing. This is all hard-coded values. Interesting. Oh, it's mock data disconnected. It's like, what is going on here? Because I definitely didn't update my push to the business object to update any other field besides the uh, the email content. My co-host is wanting to leave my room. 1 second. All right. So this is probably going to paste in actually kind of ugly, but I just want to see if it saves properly, which it should. Comes back to the view page. It's actually good. So my flow back to my view page works. So that's nice. I just need to fix the... Okay, so the actual HTML is saving in there, but there's some sort of... I bet it's... Yeah, there's some double quotes scattered through here, so I bet the API is kind of blowing up when trying to push this through. So let me think about the easiest way to handle pushing that into our email content. If we look where we're pushing this in, going to be here. So it's grabbing the email content from Flowwise return HTTP request. What's coming through the log generated email? Because it's essentially creating a JSON for my HTTP call back to my business object that's not well formed. So because of all the extra double quotes within the HTML. This is the, yeah, so this is the email that's coming back, and this is this, so it is escaping them. You can see it's got the backslash. So technically, that should be able to work. What that error was one more time. Need to see what exactly it's blowing up on. I'm sure it's the email content. Content field. Just need to maybe parse it as JSON. Here's my log step is not super helpful here. Log 1. That's just the response from. So if we go here, this is email content is going to be JSON data as at JSON. If we parse this to JSON, it will properly escape those. Let's try that. Because my guess is that it's coming through, being put into an auto type and probably automatically figuring it as text and then pushing it directly into that field, into my little text template that goes to my API request. And then that API request is blowing up because it's text and not JSON because of all those extra double quotes. All right, let's see if that fixed our problem. Now let's check our data one more time. That was the one I'm pretty sure I pasted in there. Yeah, it's definitely still blowing up. This is a pretty minor syntactical issue, essentially, is what's going on here, is that I have double quotes inside of my HTML that's coming through. The HTML is functioning. I could probably just drop this into its own little text file and see what it looks like. Let's grab my IDE. I'm just curious what this email looks like even. Sample HTML. Didn't like that at all. So this is my HTML apparently. It's not well formed either. So Claude may be returning something to me, but I don't necessarily think it's in a super workable format. Let's see here. So basically what all we've done here is we created and saved our email to the business object. I need to update the formatting. I don't want to waste your guys' time watching me fiddle with HTML formatting, but that's the problem. Basically, it's coming through as HTML, which I did want it to do that. I just don't have it in the proper format for the API to handle that request coming in to my business object. I can save it. I literally dropped it into an extend app that was able to save all the HTML. So that worked fine. Essentially, I just need it to come in a format that our business object can handle coming in from my FlowWise agent. And we did do that. That is functioning. We do have a management page. We have an edit page. The last bit there is just connecting the view page to the edit page, which is a simple, the button to the flow task to go to the particular object that is corresponding in the grid itself. And we are sending that message. Granted, we're just sending that message back to ourselves, but our orchestration is working in that regard. The last bit we could do is just configuring this integration to run once a day, because it does do that looping through and does our email cadence. So I guess we could do that. We only got 5 minutes left, and that's a pretty easy setup. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. And then tomorrow, I thought that given it's the last day of the week and is actually going to be the last day that I will be here for the new year. I am going on vacation for the rest of the year, but I will be back in the new year with bells on to jump back into everything. So tomorrow, I think I'm going to do a recap of everything we've built on this live stream since its inception a few weeks ago. We built 3 different apps already, and I think going through them will be a fun thing to go through, and we'll have our special guest Todd Tarpley back with us as well. So let's go ahead and jump into our tenant, and we're going to configure our integration. So to configure this integration, we're first going to create an integration. Integration system. We'll name this email digest. And this template is going to be an orchestrate template. And now we have our orchestration service, and we're going to configure our integration attributes to coincide with our orchestrate that does that loop. So off of the related actions, integration system, configure integration attributes. These do need to match directly with your orchestration. So I'm going to grab my orchestrate name, which is that send email to all customers. And then the last is the application ID. So you can get this in several different places. One is going to be from the app here on the dev site. You can also grab it from the app manager. You can also grab it from the URL that you're on. But there's also a fancy little copy button here right next to the reference ID, and we're just going to use that. Drop that here in the application reference ID. Okay. And now we have all this configured. We don't need to push anything in. There's nothing that needs to go into this integration because it handles all of that itself. All we just need to do is schedule the integration now. So we're going to do the schedule integration task. I guess I can go right off the integration itself. Integration launch schedule. And this is going to run on a daily occurrence. And then we click OK. Here, I'm pretty sure everything should just be the default. Recurs every weekday. I guess we could do that because we don't want these customer emails going out on a weekend per se, even though our email cadence can't handle the weekend days. But let's keep it to business days. Our start time will just be later tonight, 6 p.m. Oops. And then the start date and end date. So we'll start today and end at the end of the year. Jumping on my calendar. December 31st next year. So our email occurrence will run for the remainder of the year. I could, throw this out to multiple years, but for this, we're just going to do it for a year. So it's going to run every single day, only during the weekdays to send out those emails. I would essentially just need to be cognizant to not put any of my email cadences to land on the weekend, because then it wouldn't run and wouldn't send that email out. That's pretty much the end of this particular app. Again, last bit we really needed to do is just fix that HTML coming back from our Flowwise agent. But that's probably just a simple either adjusting the prompt to send back properly escaped characters, or we could handle that in our orchestration to adjust how that HTML format is coming in. But I'm going to go ahead and say that this particular app is pretty much done, and we will review this and the other 2 apps tomorrow. Thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.